Hey, how are you recovering from that trip to Tokyo? It was so much fun, but the jet lag is killing me.
I know, me too. I've been waking up at the weirdest times. I'm so glad that we got to go on the trip together.
Me too.
I learned so much.
I know, I did too. And one of the things that I thought I was really going to hate, but ended up loving, was the trip to the History Museum.
Yeah, loved it. Loved that.
Can you believe that Tokyo was started by a samurai warrior? That's crazy to me.
I know.
And they had such a dark history that in the 1920s they had the earthquake that killed hundreds of thousands of people, and then no less than 20 years later the United States bombed them in World War II. But they've rebuilt every single time, and now they're considered one of the world's best megacities.
Yeah, that trip was super fun. It was really cool to see how different everything was. It really made me appreciate their culture much more. Seeing how fast-paced and dedicated to their work they are, that was amazing. They are so technologically advanced, and we have so much to learn from their systems that they have built. Like the bullet trains. That was one of my favorite parts.
Oh yeah, they were super cool.
Yeah, and they're so fast and efficient, and the food was a lot healthier and better priced.
Yeah. I totally agree. The experience honestly taught me so much. Their culture is so different from ours, but in such cool ways. The people are hardworking, and they're committed to being successful, which I really admire.
Yeah, me too.
Hey Matt, how
What are you doing right now?
Oh, I'm just working on a project for my Japan trip.
Oh yeah, can I join you?
Of course you can.
How's your weekend?
It was good, it was busy. Can you believe the weather here? It's insane. I feel like it's November and our weather is still like this. One of the things I learned about on our trip to Tokyo was about the insane typhoons, and I know it's common for the islands to get hit, but the fact that Tokyo itself is actually getting hit is apparently really crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy that there's a typhoon heading towards Tokyo and the rest of the country. And it's supposed to be one of the most deadly ones in 60 years. I think typhoons are usually accompanied by harsh winds, flooding, and mudslides. This one I heard is called Hagibis, which means velocity in Filipino. I was thinking about the connections about typhoons that they have to communicate, the communication techniques used in Japan.
I know, and I know that everything shuts down when a typhoon hits because obviously it's really dangerous. Planes are grounded, roads are flooded, and trains are stopped. And I feel like this would really force people to stay inside their houses and lose a lot of valuable time at work and at school. And Tokyo itself is a thriving city filled with a lot of really hardworking people. They're known for how hardworking they are. And I think that this is something that would throw them off their game.
Yeah, a typhoon definitely would throw a country or a city out of their game just because of the destruction it can have on a city or a town or a whole country for that matter. But in my opinion, the four communication perspectives we talked about in class that pertain to Japan and the cities in Tokyo fall under the critical perspective. They communicate with power, and even through these constant weather struggles, they're able to succeed as a country as they're able to succeed.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because the unique weather phenomenons that Japanese people face do alter the way they communicate. And I think that Japan was faced in 2011 with Tohoku earthquake and a tsunami, and over 15,000 people were killed. That's just so sad to even think about. Telecommunication was disrupted, and I feel like getting in contact with people who are affected or even knowing what the problems were just really difficult.
Yeah, it was horrible. I mean, the aftermath of the earthquake and the tsunami created both a humanitarian crisis and an economic crisis. The tsunami resulted in over 340,000 displaced people in the affected Tohoku region, and there was a shortage of food, water, shelter, medicine, and fuel for survivors. And in response, the Japanese government mobilized the Self-Defense Force to provide aid and assistance, and then many countries, including the U.S., sent search and rescue teams to help in the process. And then aid organizations across the world and in Japan were able to raise over $100 billion for aid and search.
That's really cool. I feel like it's really evident that the effective use of intercultural communication between Japan and the rest of the world even has helped help that situation for a quick and effective relief response. I feel like that maybe played a huge role in minimizing the negative effects. Even though 15,000 people died, the effects would have been a lot worse if they couldn't effectively get their message out there and get relief out there also. That was so fun, just geeking out about Tokyo and Japan, and it feels like I was back on the trip again, but I'm overworking. Do you want to go get some lunch?
Yeah, let's leave. That was fun though.
Yeah.
Hey man, so how'd you like that trip to Japan?
It was crazy, man. It was super different.
No, yeah, I thought it was super different. Like the differences between like American punctuality and Japanese punctuality. Here in America, like everything is so relaxed. Like you can go to class late and stuff like that.
That's true.
But in Japan, like everything is so stressed. Like bus times, everything is, you know. So I
Yeah.
thought that was definitely different. It's punctuality is just, you know, and it's demonstrated as a sign of respect. I thought that was crazy.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, it's just crazy to me how, like, although Tokyo is one of the most densely packed cities in the planet, like, the city still happens to maintain, like, a very impressive sense of order. Like, honestly, I just feel like it's largely in part due to the emphasis that Japanese culture puts on punctuality. Not only does punctuality apply to individuals in Japan, but it also applies to many other industries, such as, like, public transport.
Did you like notice how in America everything's sort of individualistic and in Japan it's kind of collective? Did you notice that, or is that just me?
Yeah, no, man, I found that so interesting. Like, in Japan, it seems as though, like, pride and satisfaction are, like, found within specific groups. Whereas, like, in America, I noticed that, like, people typically focus on, like, their own aspirations and they, like, tend to find satisfaction within, like, their own personal accomplishments, you know? And, like, I don't know, just, like, another aspect of Japanese culture that I wanted to address was their concept of social hierarchy. Like, what are your thoughts on this idea?
Oh yeah, so I noticed the junior and you know, the junior and the senior relationships differs in Japan than it does in America.
Oh, yeah.
And in Japan, social hierarchy is defined by age necessarily. So essentially, the seniors are, they're supposed to act as mentors to the young, and the young are supposed to kind of help the seniors in a sense. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like in America, you know, seniority, you know, like your status in society is defined on, you know, your accomplishments and stuff like that, which kind of ties into what you were saying about, you know, Japan being more of a collective group and America kind of being more individualistic.
Yeah,
so I thought that was very different.
Totally, man. Yeah, no, I noticed that as well. And, like, honestly, I found it pretty strange how self-centered our culture is compared to, like, the Japanese culture.
Definitely.
Honestly, I think that, like, the American people should just focus less on their own personal accomplishments and work together to become a more collective society like Japan.
It was an eye-opening experience, man. I really liked it.
Yeah, no, it definitely was.
Did you see Emperor Naruhito's enthronement ceremony?
Yes, but with the ascension of the crown prince, it will leave only 3 heirs. As the current law stands, only male heirs of the male line of the family are permitted to succeed the throne.
With the small ranks of male heirs, there has been a rekindled debate about allowing women to ascend the throne. Not only are women not allowed to take the throne, but they lose their royal status when they marry commoners, and their children are no longer considered part of the imperial line.
I heard that a group of politicians suggested enacting a special law allowing men from branches of the royal family that were abolished in post-war reforms to rejoin the line.
There has been growing support for a woman taking the throne, though.
I suppose only time will tell. The Japanese government has been tasked with coming up with solutions for what is seen as a growing crisis. It is unclear if the government will be willing to change the tradition.
My favorite takeaway from our trip to Japan was the newfound appreciation I have for Japanese culture. They are much more family-oriented and put a large emphasis on hard work as well as punctuality, and that was very admirable to observe. I will try to work nearly half as hard as they do, now that I have seen the amount of effort and dedication they put into being successful in their endeavors. They stay committed to their way of life despite all the crazy weather situations they have. Typhoons, earthquakes, tsunamis, you name it. They've suffered through it. But the structure of their country and advancement of their intercultural communication has allowed them to stay in contact with the world so that whenever there is a disaster, they can get their citizens the help they need. They continue to get up whenever knocked down. I know for sure that the one thing we as citizens of the United States need to do is improve our intercultural communication and understanding of the Japanese way of life. There are so many misconceptions about their culture as well as stereotypes, but the truth is that we really have much to learn from them. They have great respect for their elders and govern their country in a much more efficient and effective way than the United States at times. The emperors of Japan are also very significant to their culture, and people from all over the world see the emperor as a figure of high standing and respect. Additionally, Japan uses technological advancements that have vastly improved their way of life to help their citizens. And as a result, their quality of living is very outstanding. We have much to learn from them, and I hope we can continue to improve our intercultural communication with them so that we can mutually benefit from the advancements they've made. We need to continue to use globalization to become closer to Japan as well as the rest of the world. We can not keep to ourselves as nationalists. The world is changing and we need to progress with it, or we will be left behind. Japan is a very good leader and example for the United States to follow, and we would be lucky to have the chance to work with them.